Welcome, Mr. Jonathan Weiner, the US Special Envoy for Libya. What is the situation in Libya on the ground now?
Well, the situation in Libya on the ground is one of where Daesh has lost the geographic control that it had throughout the Sirte Basin last year, and it has been removed in its ability to control any Libyan territory. There's still Islamic State people in Libya, but they don't control territory, and that's the biggest change since last year.
The government of national accord, has it succeeded in achieving stability in Libya?
Well, the situation is more stable than Syria or Iraq or Somalia. It is not as stable as it needs to be. There's been fighting that's been ongoing in Benghazi, which is just about concluded, to get rid of terrorist and extremist forces in a couple of neighborhoods in Benghazi. There's the fighting which is over now in Sirte, as I mentioned. There's been fighting to get extremists out of Derna. From time to time, trouble breaks out in Tripoli, but by and large, Tripoli is pretty quiet. By and large, Misrata is pretty quiet. So the situation is dynamic, and its stability is uncertain for the future, but day by day, the country remains in a reasonably quiet state.
Are you optimistic about the future of security and stability in Libya based on what has been done now?
Libya's future depends on Libyans. It doesn't depend on what the United States or Russia or China or England or the UK or France or Italy or Egypt or Saudi Arabia or Tunisia or Algeria or any neighboring state or regional state or big power does. It depends on Libyans. Libyans need to be talking with one another to solve their problems and to work out solutions that will make the current situation more stable. The government of national accord needs to be able to deliver more goods and services to the Libyan people over the next year, and then sometime after that it needs to go out of business and be replaced by a new government that is elected, either under the old constitution where there's a king, or under a new constitution, or under a constitutional declaration, which they put into place after they got rid of Gaddafi. Libyans made the decision to get rid of Gaddafi. Foreign countries helped with some of the bombing of his forces to prevent him from engaging in atrocities against Libyans, but they made the decision. They did the fighting. They rescued their country. Libyans need to work together again to rescue their country.
The troops of General Haftar do not recognize the government of national accord. Why is this happening? Why there is no recognition? And can stability in Libya happen without engaging with the troops of General Haftar?
General Haftar controls different forces, which he has amalgamated into an institution he calls the Libyan National Army. A number of those forces were previously in Gaddafi's Libyan army. They have different attitudes towards the government of national accord. He himself has said that he is not ready to come under the government of national accord and doesn't recognize it, and that's a problem. There are additional forces who are outside his army. His army essentially has no presence in Misrata, has no presence in Tripoli, it has no presence in the west. And some elements of his army are made up of militias. The goal is to go beyond militias for anyone, to develop truly national institutions that are subject to rule of law and to a constitutional framework. I've met with General Haftar. He and I have discussed these issues. I think there is a road ahead, but it requires people to talk to one another and reach agreement. The agreement needs to be inclusive, to bring people together, and it needs to enable the building out of a national security force, including members of the National Libyan Army, Libyan National Army, to provide security on a national basis in consultation with and in balance with local police forces and other relevant local forces. The militias need to, over time, be removed, eliminated. They weren't part of Libyan life before. There need to be regular forces, not irregular forces. Militias are a threat. Long term, they need to go away. The question is how to do it. You can only do it if some of the people who've been part of it, people who are willing to respect government, respect the state, are willing to become part of national forces. That's part of the deal that needs to happen.
In your experience as a special envoy for the United States for Libya, how long do you think it will take to have elected government and a new constitution?
Well, the Government of National Accord, by its terms, has 2 years mandate, 1 year plus 1 year renewable. If you say that that government began on January 25th, 2016, which is when I think it began, when the House of Representatives voted in favor of the Presidential Council and the political agreement, then you have a 2-year period from that, or roughly a year left. It seems to me that 2 years is about right for a transitional government before elections. I would like to see a majority of the Libyan people agree on timing of elections. I'd like to see a referendum on a constitution, and then, if possible, elections to take place on a new constitution, and then on a new government. If that's too hard, they could at least do that in connection with the existing constitutional declaration of 2011 and schedule elections. What we don't want is anyone taking over the country by force. We don't want the country splitting up into pieces. We don't want competing governments. All of that is very threatening and destructive for Libya. It needs to be one country under rule of law, under an elected government, with one military supporting it on a non-ideological, nonpartisan national basis that doesn't favor any tribe, but includes all tribes and all the Libyan people.
You mentioned in one of your hearings in the Congress that the role of America or the United States is political now. So the funding which you asked for the state of the Department of the State, like $20 million for 2017. So do you think the American role in Libya is political now and not military? And how do you evaluate the American role and is not leading? You know, like there is United Nations, there is the European Union. So where can you see the American role in helping achieving stability in Libya?
Shukran. Over the past 3 years, while I've been working as special envoy, our work has been political, it's been on security, and it's been on the economy. The political work continues to focus on trying to bring Libyans together through national reconciliation to support the Government of National Accord so that it can carry out its job to meet the needs of all Libyan people. Barriers to that have been the House of Representatives not being willing to support it, and General Haftarah wanting to be independent of any government. We'd like to see Libyans come together and talk it through and find solutions. We then want to see a system designed for elections for the future, to allow Libyans to move on to a government that they've chosen, that is democratically elected, and which further brings people together. The second strand of what we've been working on has been economic. We've been trying to get the Central Bank of Libya and the National Oil Company to be working with the Government of National Accord, again, to deliver goods and services and to get oil pumped to generate revenues that can then be used for the Libyan people. If the oil isn't pumped, Libya runs the risk of running out of foreign currency, hard reserves, necessary to import food, fuel, drugs, pharmaceutical drugs, and healthcare equipment. Libyans need those things. So it's vital that no one be in a position to hold Libya's resources hostage. They need to be pumped, developed, and then spent solely on behalf of the Libyan people. So the United States has done a lot of work on that over the past several years. The last area, we've talked about political and economic, is security. The United States had hundreds of bombing missions against Islamic State forces in Libya and played a substantial role in forcing them out and eliminating their ability to take advantage of Libyan soil, to steal Libyan resources, and to hurt Libyan people through their control of that territory. The forces from Tripolitania bled and suffered and fought to force them out. But we helped from the sky, and that made a big difference. And that was important. We have offered to help train and equip special forces for fighting terrorism, and a general force, foreign army, in the past over the last several years. But first the Zaidan government, then the Al-Thani government, and now the current Government of National Accord have yet to say yes, have yet to say they're ready to take that offer. Did a lot of work on that. So we feel good about how we've helped on security. But of course, there's more that we and others can do if the Libyan government and Libyan people are ready for it.
Did the killing of the American ambassador in Libya leave any scars and psychological influence on a bigger role for the United States in Libya?
The killing of the U.S. ambassador in Benghazi caused us to pull people out of Libya. We then came back, but it was always with the concern that we could get into a situation where someone else might be put at risk. No one in our government was willing to tolerate that. So in July 2015, when the Zintan and the Misratans were fighting one another for control of Tripoli, our ambassador made the correct decision to pull our embassy out and our personnel out. When we did that, essentially everyone else in the international community pulled out at the same time. So it did leave a scar, it did leave a lasting impact, and it has hurt Libya because the international presence in Libya is very limited now. Libya needs to have internationals participate in its national life, as almost every other country in the world needs people from outside the country to come join them.
So it didn't put you off? It didn't put the United States off to do more work in Libya?
We would be much more involved in Libya, certainly physically, if that incident had not happened. It's an unfortunate legacy of that incident that there's not a single person from the U.S. Department of State who's currently allowed to be in Libya. I have not been in Libya since the spring of 2014. I've gone to every country in the region, but I've not been allowed for security reasons to go back into Libya, nor has any other official from the State Department. It's a problem. We would like to see a stable, secure Libya that welcomes people from all over the world, including Americans.
The talk is about the political and militant leaders to decide the future of Libya. But where are the ordinary Libyans in deciding the future of Libya through your experience working with Libya and helping them?
Well, ordinary Libyans vote, and they voted in all the elections. Of the last elections in June 2015, there were many fewer people voting than in the past. Ordinary Libyans, I think, want a Libya that is strong and stable and secure, whose resources go to providing them their basics and essentials. They don't like the political squabbling and infighting. They don't like the bloodshed. They don't like the insecurity. They wanted to have nothing to do with the Islamic State or the Al-Qaeda in the Maghreb or Ansar al-Sharia or any other terrorist group. So they're looking for their leaders to stand up for the country as well as for their cities and their tribes. And they're disappointed in their leadership by and large, and we see that. They've liked the fact that General Haftar has consolidated control in an area, and they've liked that because within the area where he has consolidated control, there's less instability. But they also don't want to go back to a situation where he or anybody else is a dictator. New Gaddafi is not something anybody wants. So security, yes. New Gaddafi, no. That's a complicated line to define, but we think that's where they are. The Libyans, by and large, treat foreigners with great courtesy, but they don't like being told what to do by foreigners. Not Americans, not Russians, not Italians, not Egyptians, not anybody. Okay. And that's appropriate. Libyans need to decide their future, not foreigners.
What about Egypt and United Arab Emirates? It's known that they're supporting General Haftar, and General Haftar doesn't recognize the Government of National Accord. Did you have any negotiation or talks or discussion with Egypt and UAE in order to help to achieve stability?
First, every country that works on Libya has promised not to send arms into Libya in violation of the UN arms embargo. The countries you've named have told me point blank they have not violated the UN arms embargo. There are newspaper accounts which suggest that arms have gone in. The UN panel of experts report that came out last year showed aircraft in Egypt that were Egyptian air defense vessels being repainted And then there are pictures of those aircraft in Libya. So I don't know exactly what happened there, but there's visual evidence there, despite the statements that they haven't been doing it. Our point of view is that conflict is not going to make armed conflict is not going to make a safe and secure Libya. We have talked to the Egyptians and the Emiratis and the Turks and the Qataris and the Saudis and the Algerians and the Tunisians and the Sudanese. I went down to Khartoum. We've talked to people from Chad and Niger and Mali, which is not exactly on the border but nearby, and to Morocco. And we've gotten tremendous alignment in support of a government of national accord, alignment in support of a principle that Libya cannot be divided up into multiple states, support that there needs to be solutions by agreement rather than by the use of force. That said, from time to time, there may be parties who try to support particular players. Obviously, General Haftar has gotten his weapons from somebody. And the question is, can he achieve victory by arms alone? We think he can't. We think no one can. It doesn't matter whether it's him or any other individual. Military conflict is not going
So why he doesn't listen to you and recognize the government of national accord and build the future of Libya?
Well, I don't know about you, but in my family, my children don't always listen to me. My wife doesn't always listen to me. My parents don't always listen to me. My best friends don't always listen to me. And so it's not realistic to expect any Libyan to come listen to me and suddenly say, oh, yes, I'm going to agree with you. Dialogue means you talk with somebody else. You give them the arguments that you think make the most sense for them as well for you, and they choose what is the right behavior. For us, the right behavior is negotiating solutions together from their respective positions with their respective powers and finding solutions that are going to help the country work.
Can we say the U.S., with the support of the coalition against the Islamic State, succeed to eliminate the danger of the Islamic State militants in Libya?
Islamic State uses territory to steal and pillage that territory to create wealth and power, and then to enlarge the territory. That's what they were doing in Libya. That's all gone now. That threat has been wiped out. Now there are still some number, maybe hundreds, of extremist fighters in Libya who've been labeled as Islamic State by themselves or by others, who are now likely living in various cells. It would be foolish to think they've just disappeared and they're now going to go back home, turn on the television set, and bake cookies and bread for the rest of their life. They're committed to their vision of an Islamic State that is intolerant of all others, a vision which is terrible for everybody else. And so the question is, what do they do next now that their territory has been taken away from them? Now they don't have the money. Now they don't have the power. Our fear is that they will carry out terrorist attacks, some of which will be designed to be spectacular, big impact, in order to show that they're still around and that they still matter. It will be absolutely critical for the United States and other countries to stay engaged to counter terrorism in North Africa, not just Libya, and in the Middle East and the Gulf, not just Libya, and to work with other countries against this phenomenon. You know, there are not too many people these days who blow themselves up and blow up other people in the name of anarchism. But 150 years ago, all over the world, there were people who called themselves anarchists who blew themselves up and killed other people in the name of that idea. So we have to continue to work at this until that idea is gone.
Do you think security and stability will be materialized in Libya in the foreseeable future or not?
Well, no country is completely secure, and no country is completely stable. There's change is inevitable in every country. We live in a dynamic world. The goal is to have a Libya that is stable enough and secure enough so ordinary people can go about their business, lead normal, good lives, feel economically secure, have the country's resources benefiting them, not other people, and so the peoples of the world, Egyptians, Chinese, Russians, Americans, Brits, French, Italians, Tunisians, Algerians, can also be in Libya and feel safe. That's the goal. That's what we've all been working for.
But can you
and that's
say,
what
can
we'll
you
keep
say
working
like
for.
more than 50% will happen? Less? Or can you give like a probability? Or is it likely to happen in the foreseeable future?
Libya is not Syria. Libya is not Somalia. Libya has a chance of evolving in a much more stable and secure direction, which would be good.
So you're optimistic.
Or it has the ability to devolve down into a very violent civil war that would be remarkably destructive. The situation is iffy. It's uncertain which way it will go. It could go either way.
Okay.
It could go either way. That's why it's so important people work together to try and go it the right way.
Mr. Jonathan Weiner, the Special Envoy of the United States to Libya, thank you so much.